calls just to go over some of the hot topics we're getting and some of the hot service calls that we're hearing. So I'm going to run through these. Steve kind of covered it. Tech support's kind of, the calls are getting, a little longer wait times, but keep in mind, they're working with the contractors. As you can see, we got working displays for each boiler. This is the most updated picture. I was up and see it's snowing back there, Steve. I was up there before the holidays to meet with Dave Nicholson and meet some of the tech support guys and meet with the engineering team. And that's the picture I just took right behind Dave Nicholson's desk. Everybody is now downstairs, Steve. They're all down there in their little cubicles down there, and they get to look at the lake. So it was pretty nice to see everybody.
No, wait. You said look at the lake?
Well, look at the frozen lake.
That's the Kennebecasis River. That's the Kennebecasis River you're looking at.
That thing freezes, my man. When they drive buses over it, that's crazy.
The winter pass goes across there. I watched that guy come across that ice 2 years ago at about 65 mile an hour, hit the far side and missed the entrance and went into a 6-foot snowbank with his Impala and sat there spinning in his wheels. It was the funniest thing I've watched. I literally could not pull myself away from the window watching that guy.
We were standing outside. It just got done snowing. Andrea and Dave and I were standing outside. Andrea was smoking, and we were looking over, and a bus comes across that. I said, "No way! I've never seen that driving across that lake." That was kind of interesting.
But, right now they're not. They're back off it because they've had the same warm weather we've had.
Oh, this week was nice. The van finally thawed out because that was freezing up. It was so cold up here. Guys, gals, and wholesalers and reps, keep in mind our app is now active for both the Samsung, Google devices, Android based or Apple based devices. The app is really nice, especially when you're linking it with another boiler, because it makes the process so easy. It streamlines it for you, so you're not going dancing around looking for this IP address. It really makes it easy. So I encourage everybody to take a look at it, because keep in mind that app can be helpful to you, especially when troubleshooting, just like the computer program can be. Having Wi-Fi built in, we can see different things like control the functions. Maybe we have a boiler we put in during the summertime, and I'm getting calls where guys are calling in and say, "Listen, I put this boiler in. Remotely you can access it. So you can basically remotely access it, change the parameters, adjust the temperatures. If maybe you set it to a lower temperature on your baseboard and you want to increase it a little bit, or maybe you forgot to turn on the boost function, which is really going to be helpful. Maybe you didn't turn that on. You can activate that from the computer programs. It can even show you things like, if you're trying to order, let's say you're ordering a kit, like you always say, Steve, send out that birthday card every year and remind them it's their birthday so they can, get that boiler clean. So you may need a cleaning kit. This is perfect. You go in, what boiler you're working on, serial number, you can get the exact kit you need. And that's a topic that we've been coming up with. We do have the newer kits out there for the TRX and the larger TRXs. So keep in mind, that's something that you want to put on your shelf, especially coming into preventive maintenance season. You can also adjust your temperatures. Like, let's say, for instance, you got a customer that's complaining about not enough hot water. Well, you can go in, maybe turn a comfort function on, give them a little extra, keep the plate hot a little better, a little warmer for when the domestic call comes in. You can also see things like ionization current. So let's say you guys start to look at the ionization current of your boilers. You can see when the boilers are starting to get wear, and the life expectancy of the sensor is going to start to deteriorate after time. You can tell that. So these are things that you can go in and remotely do. Makes your life a lot easier. So just want to throw that out there to everybody. The other thing is we've had a couple software updates. I encourage everybody to, I don't want to be, overbeat this here, but I've always said the partner login is where you want to be. That's where all our action happens. You got all your technical documents, all your drawings, and all your software updates. We have found a lot of different changes with the software and the programming of the controls as we move forward into the TFTN, which is going to just kill it. I'm sorry, the TFTN is going to be the boiler. Now, we're getting a lot of calls. I got a couple calls past 2 weeks. One is boiler's not modulating. What do we look at? Well, first thing I would look at is, number one is there something inside the pump? Is there something maybe getting inside there that the pump can't move for domestic or for heat? We did find this is, if you see on the left-hand side there, it looks like a little of that gump or that silicone that you get with Centrotherm, Steve. A little the the lube that you get with that, that's what that looks like right there. So that can
You're
get in the
talking
top.
about the KY jelly we used to put sensor film together.
Yeah, yeah,
What are
it
some
looks just like what's in that pump, and once that gets inside there, that'll fail that pump. So we got a couple of calls where people are getting 108s. If you get a 108, it's really easy to troubleshoot this. First thing I would look at is number one is the pressure switch. If it's not modulating, is the pressure switch working? I had a call the other day where the boiler wasn't modulating. They changed the pressure switch, boiler continued to do the same thing, got another pressure switch, everything was fine, and boiler ran fine. So keep in mind, if it's not modulating, it's not getting enough pressure, could also be an issue. You can jump the pressure switch out on the older boilers.
Slow
Had a
down,
guy,
slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. Jesus, I can't even ask you a question.
sure, go ahead.
So Bill McKay said which sensor when you're talking about sensors and adjusting temperatures and stuff, and you had
Oh,
said, go ahead.
uh, temperature, pressure switch is just a pressure switch. Nothing with the pressure switch needs to be jumped out. It needs to be checked. If the pressure switch isn't working, you can simply tell that by jumping it out here. So you'll be able to tell by jumping the two leads out, the end lead and the middle lead.
So another question for you just to step back here when it comes to heating mode, and you said get people heat faster for the domestic, and Milek asked which is the best, what is the best mode?
I mean, I would keep it in the normal comfort mode, but if you get that customer that is just complaining about that slow heating of the domestic hot water, that's when you want to activate the comfort mode. Because keep in mind, when you activate the comfort mode, you're just acting like a normal boiler. You're just going to maintain the plate temperature. Now, there's
You're turning it into a summer winter hookup
yeah,
basically.
basically what you're doing.
It's going to
But now
maintain temperature 24 hours a day just in case you need hot water.
Yep, temperature and time. You can program that by temperature and time. And see, that's where I go back, Steve, to the computer program, because now they can physically go in there, link in with that, see that right on the computer, and change it right there. See it's so easy to do it. Now you just when you go into the boiler, if you're in front of the boiler, all you have to do is hit the menu button, scroll with the plus key on the right hand side until you get to the comfort function. It shows a little faucet and, and it has the little box and it says comfort function. And the first thing you'll see is 24 hours, and then you'll see turn it on. The next screen, when you hit plus, turn it on. So what you do is just like Steve said, every 24 hours of maintain temperature inside that plate. So you won't
So,
get that slow few seconds of cold water. It's basically what you're not
so,
going to get.
so now the next question, going back to the sensor, Bill Mackey wanted to know ionization sensor, question mark?
Ionization sensor. If we talk about the let's save that till we get a little further in our presentation, because I have something that talks about the ionization current. But to where Bill's
But,
talking about,
but isn't that what we call the flame sensor?
yes, yes,
Okay, so flame sensor and ionization sensor are the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Let's go back.
just making it clear for Bill. That's all.
Yeah, let me show. Let's see if I can make this. So I can't do it because my surface is. But Bill, you see where my little pointer is here? This is my ionization current. You can monitor this while the boiler is running. So you'll be able to monitor this on the computer and then also,
So
on the,
this is the voltage
yep,
output through the ionization sensor is what you're showing here.
right. And and
Okay.
believe it or not, this is a perfect example because if you're looking here, let's see where my pointer is, number 12. So if I was to look at a number 12, I'd say my microamps may be like 6.3, 6.4. I have a chart, Steve. I think I hand this out at all the trainings. I think we've handed out yours a couple times, which shows that. So, um, because keep in mind where on other boilers they use microamps, we're using a flame signal. Okay, so we're using a plotted flame signal. That's real important. But good, Steve. Any more questions?
Yes, but it has to do with going back to
Can't
the
hear you.
program. Well, everybody else can. Can you hear me now? It's at your end. Everybody else is saying they can hear me.
Yeah, I just seen that. Yeah, I just seen that.
All right. So here's a question for you. One of our
Mm-hmm.
customers, and I won't mention Tyler Hulbert, who I absolutely love.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler says he has boilers on his remote GW thermal website. but he can't seem to get them on his app when he puts them in. He gets an error message about them already being registered. Simple fix. And
Yes.
good.
Yes. Tyler, email me the serial numbers, and we can get them in the tech support. Dave Nicholson can take them out.
Well, no, he says he already has them on his remote GW, but then he can't see them on his app. And I guess if I'm translating what Tyler's asking, Tyler, the app is only to register the boiler onto your remote GW site. Once they're registered, you can't see them anymore on that
Yeah, you can't do
app. That
you
app
can't
is
do
not
much
to
on that.
see. That app is not to see the boilers running. You have to see them running. You have to actually on your phone log into the remote GW Thermo site, and then you can see them.
That's right. That's
All
right.
right. So that app, the NTI Net app, is strictly to register the boiler onto the people's Wi-Fi. After that, it's useless as teats on a bull. So, and I only said that because I know that Eddie Leeds here, and he would appreciate teats on a bull. So anyway, so good. We've answered all the questions. We can move on, and Tyler's happy. He understands now. Good.
Yep.
Thanks, Ty.
Well, and another thing we're seeing where we're getting flow meters that may get damaged. So this is something where you really needed to look at that. May have got damaged maybe in shipping or pulling the lead on and off. Now remember, this is also a serviceable item. So every year when you clean it, you're pulling this clip off here. You're pulling this out. So be careful, guys. Just want to throw that. Now we have a lot of FTBNs that have been out there for a couple of years. We're going to start to see some of this wear and tear, which will be normal wear and tear on a boiler.
And it's important to understand that so unlike the smaller TRXs that use a flapper switch to make contact to tell it if it has flow or not, on the TRX 199 combi and on all the FTVNs, we use a spinning wheel with magnetics, and one piece of crap in there, if you get a piece of cast iron from the mains, it can stick that. So it's something that when you don't sense flow going through it, you need to pull that out and blow it out and check it. So
Yeah, and that's
that.
just a little screen. That screen, Steve, that pops out that you're talking about is just when you pull that clip out. You guys will pull the flow meter out, and right inside there's a white filter. Just pull that out. Now remember, that's not a real fine filter. We still, here I go. We still have to look at water quality. Look at the freaking water coming into the boiler, because that could be an issue. Like in my house here, the guy who dumped this rainwater in my cistern and now goes down into my well and makes it acidic, that'll just destroy this stuff. So we have to look at the water quality and make sure that you can use an aquapure scale inhibitors. We're using filtration. Oh, I got a kit. Oh, Steve, wait till you see the filter I got from Walter Morris. Oh, Manuch, that's nice. But that's what you guys need when you're doing these installations. Remember, always said, we're not selling boilers, we're selling systems. We're selling systems, because when it get in the future, you're not going to be selling boilers and air to water heat pumps. I'm just throwing it out there. All right. Another code we get a lot of calls on is, now this one could be a couple issues. This could be piping, could be a bad sensor, could be a pressure issue. But keep in mind, the number one thing we're seeing here is where we possibly had some either damaged sensors. Also remember, all these sensors are 10K ohm sensors at 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you take it off, you get your resistant value chart, you get your multimeter, you set its resistance, you check the ohm value of the sensor. If it's not within the limits that we show on our installation instructions, then you have a bad sensor. We've also experienced some issues where sensors may have got corroded from water dripping down. So what we put out a while ago, now at the top here is a tech bulletin for this that talks about the issues we experienced. And it was all basically a torque issue inside the manufacturing of the nuts that go inside, the union nuts that go into the side of the heat exchanger. What would happen is it wasn't tightening it fully, and in shipping it would come loose and then would cause a drip. And that was causing our 105. So we did find a lot of issues were caused by that. So that is a tech bulletin. Please reach out to tech support. Let them know and they'll get you the correct parts. Really, all you're going to do is loosen up the gasket, loosen up the union there, flip the gasket, and then replace the sensors because the sensors have been compromised. Here we go. Here I go, Steve. We can talk about water quality. It's been roaring its ugly head. So keep in mind, we've been using the ECM pumps for years. Okay. ECM pumps are magnetically driven. So what happens when you have metal and magnets? It attracts. So we're finding more and more issues. Everybody's going out and they're getting this one-on-one call and they're going through the process. They're checking this. They're checking both the return and supply sensors. They're going in. They're checking the pump. They got voltage to the pump, pressures, all good, but the boiler's just not getting rid of the heat and it's overheating. So some things to check, is the three-way valve possibly damaged? Is the shaft inside there maybe not locked in, that it's not pulling the three-way valve up and down? I had a situation today where a guy called. He said, not sure what's going on in domestic. I said, well, let's watch the boiler. Let's watch the motion of the valve. He was able to watch it, found it going in, wasn't the problem. He had too much flow. So these are things that may be something so simple as not locking in the position. You can cycle the pump. I would recommend when you have a 101, let's cycle the pump. Let's go into our parameters. 260 and 261, you can turn off and turn on the pump. So you can cycle it on and off to see if it is a pump issue. And you'll be able to tell if it's a pump issue. We have put out a tech bulletin. We've found what the problem of most of the number one 101 causes are. And as you can see on the bottom right-hand side there, that is a circulator I took apart that was sent back to the factory. It is out of an FTVN, and that circulator is freezing up because of all the magnetite inside there. So when we look at these 101s, we're finding that it was a issue where magnetite was being pulled to the magnet and causing the rotor to freeze up. So what TACO did is we put out a tech bulletin, and that tech bulletin says that within a certain range, you guys or gals and wholesalers will be able to get a replacement. But keep in mind the software for all the pumps moving forward has been changed, so it's not so sensitive because they can control it. Also seen issues where loose wires. I mean, that's just my big pet peeve. This one's very dangerous because there's a lot of extra unsealed, uncoated wire there that could be an issue. Three-way valve, guys, keep in mind, we do have a resistant value chart, and if your three-way valve is within 80 to 100 ohms, it's something that to keep in mind. It's a real quick check. Just get your little pin probes, get inside there, and ohm that thing out. It's real easy to ohm out. It's right in front of you. I mean, that's one thing about the FTVN and the TRX 199, Steve. You can attest to this. There's a lot of room in that damn boiler. There's a lot of room in that boiler.
Yes, there is.
I mean, compared to the standard, the smaller step one TRX, there's a lot of room in there. So right there's that clip, Steve, that you're talking about, the flow meter. So right there's that little clip in the bottom right hand side. But guys, keep in mind, we're not just worried about the boiler side, we're also worried about the plate side. Bypasses can get blocked. We get shit stuck inside the bypass, will cause it to go off on high temperature. Because remember, there's a 6 psi pressure drop across this block, and it always needs to see pressure on the other side. So that flow coming through, that pump moves that water so fast that it needs to ensure the pressure to the other side of that valve. And that's why we got to make sure that our water quality is pristine. That's why my analogy is like, do you buy a new car and pull up to the dealership and say, yeah, I want to trade in this old Jeep Cherokee, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the oil from the old Jeep Cherokee and I want you to throw it in my new Lexus. You ain't doing that. So same thing with a boiler. You don't go in and just throw a new boiler and not look at the system. I'm telling you, water quality is going to be a problem for us. Any questions?
Nope, not at this point.
Okay. Guys, now it's getting colder. Now remember, we're going to start experiencing more problems. Number one, you've been out. Got to get this call a lot lately, Steve, where guys are going out and they adjusted the boiler in the summertime and now it's locking out on combustion issues. They go in, they throw the old tape on the Venturi, it lights right up, but they've checked everything. So they know, hey, listen, I checked my gas pressure. I know my gas pressure is within limits. I've referenced to the manual. I busted out my Torx 10. I know I got gas pressure. You know, you ran all the appliances, so you used your manometer, everything was running in the house. Now you may see some more issues with gas-fired appliances because now remember, we're still cycling the generators if they're on natural gas or LP. We're now firing up the fireplaces. The boilers are running more. The furnaces, if they have a split system, maybe they have a split system and they have a furnace in the attic. You know, that's running. They got a boiler in the basement. That would be the only situation that I would think that they would have two different gas appliances, or maybe they have a tankless water heater. So these are things that they need to look at because it could be an issue. Because remember, when you set the appliance in the summertime, when it gets colder, the inches of water column will drop and will affect the operation of the unit. Will also affect BTU output too. So maybe the boiler can't keep up. Maybe it's not getting the full gas load that it needs. That's where we got to look at the combustion and the gas pressure. Maybe it's a regulator issue. Propane right now, if you don't have a second regulator, you could get issues with freezing. And really, the only way to find that out is with a magnehelic to really try properly diagnose that. Because remember, your digital gauges don't react fast enough.
Well, you can't say magnehelic without adding on to that magnehelic gas pressure test gauge, and it's
Right,
a
that we
manometer,
used to.
yes, but it's a big ass gauge. So
Yeah.
when you say magnehelic, I bet you half the people on tonight, which we have a great crowd. Thank you, everybody. But when you say magnehelic, people are like, "What the hell's a magnehelic?" And
Well,
don't you have a picture of that in the previous
I
screen? Or
did. Yeah, I did in my training. Well, you know what? Hold on, buddy. I think it's back here. Oh,
no, you
wait a
don't
minute.
have it. See, it's not on here.
It's not on here. Nanuch. I'll put it on there for you. No, I love that thing. You know what? Everybody laughs at me to bust that out, and that thing's older than crust. Bust it out, but you know that's the other thing. They got to get the right diaphragms too. You got to get both that natural gas and LP diaphragm because you can order them that way. So that's something special that they got to do. So they can use it both on LP and natural gas. You know what I mean? So it's a universal. But that's nice because it reacts fast enough. One thing you're going to see now, and I'm getting more and more calls with this, frozen condensate traps. So we need to start looking at that. Look at that boiler on the right-hand side, frozen solid,
Wait,
frozen.
just go back one because you showed icicles on an exhaust, and what people don't understand is when Jason and I are teaching exhausts and intakes, and you guys who have been on um, my Darwin Awards of venting, I tell you not to put 45s on the exhaust. We want it straight out or straight up so this doesn't happen. So please make sure you don't do this or put an elbow pointing down on your exhaust for God's sake. Please make sure they go straight out or straight up. Okay? So sorry, Jason.
No, Steve, wait till you see. Oh, wait till you see. I went to that TI I told you about, and I'm not gonna say where it was at. I went to that TI, and then the technician said to me, "Now you know what this did to me." I said, "What are your combustion settings?" He says, "They're right within limits." I went Joe Pesci. I said, "Limits? That's a big ass window." Uh, but I got to show you his venting. You'll love it. But frozen condensate. Now that's a TRX, Steve. That's a freaking TRX frozen. Look at that on the right hand side there. It was one block of ice. So guys, you're also going to experience issues where you may need to create a negative on the other side of if you're depending what type of neutralizer you're using. If it doesn't create a full vacuum break, you may have to put a vacuum break in there, create a negative on the other side there. You see a lot of where condensate will flood up inside the heat exchanger like you saw there. If it floods inside the heat exchanger, it's going to lock out. The boiler's going to immediately lock out. So look at your combustion. That's changed. If we adjusted it in the summertime versus the wintertime, we always know that changes. So we're going to have different in the BTU. The BTU output of the gas in the summertime is going to be more. It's going to be higher gas pressure because it's not so cold. It's nice and warm. When it's cold, the water starts to freeze. The inches of water column start to drop. So look at your condensate trap. Now this is a document I put out. So if anybody wants this document, see, this is the one we were talking about. We can send this out to you. We both have it. Send it out to one of our customers. So just to review this document, if we go into an installation or a service call, we look at the condensate trap. If we see it's a real bright red, one thing I will look at is your combustion window may be too large. So you're burning too hot. So let's try to adjust both the high fire down first and the low fire at the same increments.
So you're
But
saying so you're saying it's running too rich?
yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so I just wanted to clarify
Yeah,
rich
yes,
to
sir.
medium,
Very
because
rich, very
those
hot.
words those words aren't used in this.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I just like to throw the combustion numbers out so they know where they need to be. I always like you to understand we want to be within 5/10. We don't want to be 5% away. We want to be 5/10 from low and high. So let's say, for instance, my high fire was at just say 11. Okay, I would adjust that down to, if it was LP, I would see it up at 11. If it was natural gases, we probably see up to 10. I'd adjust that down to like a 10.5 or 9.5 on natural gas. And
wait. You adjust what down? The low fire?
the high fire and low fire, you're going to adjust them, bring
No,
them
no, no,
down.
no, 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 no. Let me clarify. When you're in high fire and you have a CO2 of 10, we'll just pick 10 because it's easy.
Yep,
When you
yep,
set it into low fire, you want it to go down, but you don't want it to go down past 9.5 is what Jason's saying. So the
that's right.
window that Jason's talking about is the distance between low fire and high fire. You always set the high fire first
And
by
adjust
the
your
gas adjustment screw, and then you set the low fire using the T40 cap
right.
screw. So, or on the old TXs and the old FTVs on the Dungus valve, you had to use a 2.5 millimeter Allen key to
Right.
adjust it.
And a
So
regular screwdriver.
please know that when Jason refers to the window, when it's red, your high fire was too high. It was too
That's right.
rich. So it had to come down, but then you have to check to make sure you didn't screw the dog in, and you got to make sure it's still within 0.5. So you always have to test low fire. This is the
And, I,
screws that for years we've been telling you not to touch as other manufacturers.
and now we
Now
want,
at NTI, we're begging you to please look at it.
well, because things
All right,
change.
sorry.
No, things change. And here's the other thing you got to keep in mind. When you go in and you see the trap like this, you know it's burning very rich and hot. So now you need to get your combustion down so it's not so hot, it's not burning. And also keep in mind, you want to run constantly. You don't want to have that large window because you're going to have more room for error. You want to have that small window, which is the 5/10 from low and high. And I'm going to tell you one thing, if you have a large window, don't adjust the high as much as you can. Do it in small increments. So let's say your high fire is, let's use an example, is at 11.2, okay, LP system, and your low fire is, let's say, 9.8. So now what I want to do is I want to bring my high fire down a little bit. I only want to come down to like 10, like 10.9. And then I'm going to go down to my low fire and I'm going to bring that up a little bit. And I'm going to shrink that window in slow increments until I get to where I want to be. That is pristine setting up the combustion.
Please,
Listen,
please note when Jason says this that your high fire adjustments you can do in quarter to a half a turn at a
yeah,
time. But
with a
on your
little
low
low fire,
fire ball set, you're moving that screw by the minute on a minute hand, ever so lightly. You don't move it a lot. You move it a minute at a time on the offset.
if you're
So
lucky.
high fire, quarter to half a turn, no big deal. Low
High
fire,
fire,
low fire, 1 minute at a time. Just a little nudge. Okay. So
don't even sneeze. Don't even sneeze when you adjust it. Now let's talk about the low fire a little bit more too here. In the middle there, you
well,
guys
wait
see
a minute.
that
Before
on.
we get off on this, let's finish up with the condensate. If it's red, you're running too rich. Now below you have
Right.
white. What's white caused by?
That's where I'm going with that. So now let's
Okay.
talk about the low fire. So if you guys have white, and you'll notice this, and you guys probably notice this on your furnace, your gas furnaces, and any boiler you're working on. When you pull that flame sensor out, look at it. If it's really white and got that powdery crap on it, that's not good. That's telling you your low fire is off. It's too far. So it's what
No,
it's
no, no.
doing. It's
It's
not
too far
burning,
rich or too far lean.
too far lean. It's not
Okay, good,
burning.
good. Just making sure we know that.
Yeah, not burning the byproducts of combustion properly. So you got to get in there and adjust that. Replace that flame sensor too at the same time, because remember, you can clean that film off there, but it's already damaged that flame sensor. So if you got a lot of buildup, rust, or any type of large white buildup, replace the sensor. Maybe you want to do a cleaning, run a little brush through it, do a little cleaning, but just your low fire, it is definitely off. If it's cloudy, just like that picture, it is definitely off. Now, I hate to say this, but if you have what we show on the bottom of this document, all bets are off. You're on your own at that point because that boiler is leaking. Like it's about to leak. If it's in that condensate trap, if you have black crap in your condensate trap, that's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. You are now leaking magnetite into the condensate trap itself. Now, keep in mind, this is my pet peeve. Look at the combustion, reference to our manual, follow our instructions. How many of you guys, how many of you guys out there do refrigeration? What do you do the first time you go to an AC call? First off is you take your finger and you hit the Schrader valve, smell the oil, and make sure it's not a burnout because you don't want to put your good gauges on there. You know, put your crappy gauges on there. What you do is you gauge up right away. Well, you're going to do the same thing. I want you guys and gals to get in the mentality when you walk into a boiler, you're going to gauge up with your combustion analyzer. You're going to see what that boiler is telling you. It's the only way to really see what it's doing. It's the only way to see how it's running. What's your efficiency? Keep in mind, that is like gauging up on a refrigeration system. Oh, how more clear it can be. Steve, going back to Bill Mackey's question, remember I talked about plotted flame signaler by number value. What I did is, and if anybody would like this, we have this document. Went in, and Mike Howe up in Maine was one of the guys that I created this for because he called me. He says, I'd like to know what that flame signal is. So when I created this, sent it to Jason, he looked at it, he signed off on it. So basically what we have here is we have on the left-hand side, we have our microamp reading, our flame microamp reading, and then on the right-hand side, we have our number plotted value that you'll see on the control on the ATG control. You'll see that plotted number on the ATG control. So you see how it goes from 129, which would be a good flame signal, down to 2 where it's not running. Questions on that?
And that's the output during flame, right?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. All right.
Steve, look, now you're going to love this. This is that same guy who said the combustion numbers were right there. Look at a T. Look at a T. Now, Steve, I want you to see where that air conditioner is to this corner wall. There's a furnace there too. He had a furnace and a TI boiler in a little closet. Talk about not following the rules for every 1,000 BTUs, every 1 square inch of makeup air, and no louvers cut into the room at all. I'm sorry, but you got to keep in mind the boilers have electrical components in them. They create heat. If you have no ventilation air to keep the whole room cool and you have everything you could stuff into that room like a furnace, a water heater, a boiler, IT systems, generators, you're going to have issues. There's your tea, Steve. You love teas. I know you love tea.
These are not used on any intake or vent. This is something that was brought to us by another company that I can't mention, that it might have 3 letters, but I can't mention them anymore. And you want the exhaust pointed away from the house straight out, for God's sake. Anyway, sorry.
Don't overcomplicate it. And you talked about it earlier. I wanted to throw it in here. I'm really, really excited about this boiler. I go out and talk to my boiler in the van every night, talk it to sleep. But guys, this is going to be the boiler. Multiple temperatures, control temperatures, easy to program. Setup wizard can give you things like pressure in the boiler, will give you your delta T. You can go in, and in the future, you'll be able to do variable speed, primary, secondary. Oh my God, just so good. So here's our sizes right now. As Steve may have mentioned, we are coming out with the bigger sizes soon, so we will see them coming down the pike. Any other questions, Steve?
No, so far I've been answering them all. Look at this motley crew.
It is motley crew. Yeah, I just wanted to throw it out. Ted's not on with us tonight, but in Teddy's territory, we run this, and some of you guys, Bill Mackey, a lot of guys have been up there. We run that what we call the high performance hydronic training at Walter Morris. So there's some of the giants in the back there, and then Chris Booten back there, who he's been. Remember that time I showed the picture of the boilers with the red light, Steve? That's Chris. Chris, he's brewing beer too. Chris at Tossie Fuel. And then just some of our guys that attended the first There's that first high performance training. And as so that's the end. But the other thing is, if you guys or gals or anybody have any questions, please reach out to tech support. But just keep in mind, they are, they're really busy there, handling everything, handling the startup calls, also they multitask. Keep in mind at NTI, a lot of us multitask. We have multiple jobs. So, you may have somebody working on some warranties or helping out with a call or something, but just keep in mind, you may have that long wait time, but we'll get back to you.
Thanks for watching the video today. If you'd like to check out more videos, see the link below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for all the future updates. And also check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.